In 2000, Dick Cheney and Senator Joe Lieberman participated in a vice presidential candidates debate at Center College in Danville, Kentucky. Bernard Shaw of CNN is the moderator. This is 90 Minutes.
From historic Danville, Kentucky, good evening, and welcome to this year's only vice presidential debate sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm Bernard Shaw of CNN, moderator. Tonight, we come to you from Newland Hall in the Norton Center for the Arts on the campus of Center College. To President John Roush, the faculty here, students, and community leaders statewide, we thank you for hosting this debate. The candidates are the Republican nominee, former Defense Secretary Dick Cheney of Wyoming, and the Democratic nominee, Senator Joseph Lieberman of Connecticut. The Commission, these candidates, and their campaign staffs have agreed to the following rules. A candidate shall have 2 minutes to respond to the moderator's question. The other candidate shall have 2 minutes to comment on the question or the first candidate's answer. When I exercise the moderator's discretion of extending discussion of a question, no candidate may speak for more than 2 minutes at one time. This audience has been told no disruptions will be tolerated. A prior coin toss has determined that the first question will go to the Democratic candidate. Senator, few hardworking Americans would base their well-being on bonuses they hope to get 5 or 10 years from now. Why do you, and you, Secretary Cheney, predict surpluses you cannot possibly guarantee to pay for your proposed programs?
Bernie, before I answer that very important question, let me first thank you for moderating the debate. Let me thank the wonderful people here at Center College and throughout Kentucky for being such gracious hosts. And let me give a special thank you to the people of Connecticut, without whose support over these last 30 years I would never have had the opportunity Al Gore has given me this year. And finally, let me thank my family that is here with me, my wife Hadassah, our children, our siblings, and my mom. My 85-year-old mom gave me some good advice about the debate earlier today. She said, sweetheart, as she is prone to call me, remember, be positive and know that I will love you no matter what your opponent says about you. Well, Mom, as always, that was both reassuring and wise. I am going to be positive tonight. I'm not going to indulge in negative personal attacks. I'm going to talk about the issues that I know matter to the people of this country: education, health care, retirement security, and moral values. I'm going to describe the plan that Al Gore and I have for keeping America's prosperity going and making sure that it benefits more of America's families, particularly the hardworking middle-class families who have not yet fully benefited from the good times we've had. And Bernie, I'm going to explain tonight how we're going to do all this and remain fiscally responsible. Let me briefly get to your question.
You have about 10 seconds.
All right. We're not spending any more than is projected by the experts. In fact, unlike our opponents, we're setting aside $300 billion in a reserve fund just in case those projections the nonpartisan experts make are not quite right. We understand that balancing the budget, keeping America out of debt, is a way to keep interest rates down and the economy growing.
Secretary Cheney.
Well, I too want to join in thanking the folks here in Center College in Danville, Kentucky, for sponsoring this and making all of this possible. And I am delighted to be here tonight with you, Joe. And I too want to avoid any personal attacks. I promise not to bring up your singing.
So I promise not to sing.
Okay. Good. I think this is an extraordinarily important decision we're going to make on November 7th. We're really going to choose between what I consider to be an old way of governing ourselves, of high levels of spending, high taxes, ever more intrusive bureaucracy, or a new course, a new era if you will, and Governor Bush and I want to offer that new course of action. With respect to the surplus, Bernie, we've got to make some kind of forecast. We can't make 12-month decisions in this business. We're talking about the kinds of fundamental changes in programs and government that are going to affect people's lives for the next 25 or 30 years. And while it may be a little risky in some respects from an economic standpoint to try to forecast surpluses, I think it's you have to make some planning assumption in which to proceed. We care a great deal about the issues that are at stake here, and one of the difficulties we have, frankly, is that for the last 8 years we've ignored a lot of these problems. We haven't moved aggressively on Social Security. We haven't moved, for example, on Medicare. There are important issues out there that need to be resolved, and it's important for us to get on with that business, and that's what Governor Bush and I want to do.
You alluded to problems. There's no magic bullet, Secretary Cheney, in this question to you. No magic bullets to solve the problems of public education, but what's the next best solution?
Well, I think public education is the solution. Our desire is to find ways to reform our educational system, to return it to its former glory. I'm a product of public schools. My family, my wife and daughters all went to public schools. We believe very much in the public school system. But if you look at where we are from the standpoint of the nation, recent exams, for example, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, independent, nonpartisan testing service shows that there's been no progress on reading scores in the last 8 years, almost no progress on math. The achievement gap between minority and non-minority students is as big as it's ever been. We've had a significant increase in spending for education nationwide, but it's produced almost no positive results. That's really unacceptable from our standpoint, because if you look at it and think about it, we now have in our most disadvantaged communities nearly 70% of our fourth graders can't read at basic level. We've graduated 15 million kids from high school in the last 15 years who can't read at basic level. They are permanently sentenced to a lifetime of failure. And what we want to do, what Governor Bush and I want to do, is to change that. We think we know how to do it. Governor Bush has done it in Texas. We want to emphasize local control so that the people here in Danville, Kentucky decide what's best for their kids. We want to insist on high standards. One of the worst things we can do is fail to establish high standards. In effect, to say to a youngster, because of their ethnic background or their income level, we don't have the same kind of expectations from you that we have from everybody else. And we want accountability. We have to test every child every year to know whether or not we're making progress with respect to achieving those goals and objectives. So we think it's extraordinarily important. This is probably the single most important issue in this campaign. Governor Bush has made it clear that when he's elected, this will be his #1 priority as a legislative major to...
Senator?